So you're thinking of buying a property? Stay tuned for our top 5 questions that we get from our buyers. We're going to answer those questions now. So to answer our questions today, we've assembled the entire Mo Real Estate team, minus Ona, of course, she's answering the phones and whatnot, and also Zach Silverman from the Silverman Mortgage Group. So question number 1, I think, really starts at the mortgage stage of things, because before you even start looking at houses, you have to kind of know what you can afford. So that's kind of question number 1 we get is where do we start, and that's kind of in the mortgage side of things. So Zach, down payments, the pre-approval process, how long does it take? How easy is it? That kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So when you're looking at buying a home, the first step is really to know what you can afford and so what you can qualify for. In today's world, there's a lot of different options out there. And so the first thing is to talk to a mortgage broker. You're going to go through a process where we're going to look at 4 main things, and that's employment and income, down payment, credit, and then whatever property type you're going to be looking at. Okay, so the process is fairly simple. We go through an application process, get all the information. It's very important that whenever you're getting a pre-approval, that you actually supply documentation up front. That way, the broker or the bank can understand completely what your financial situation is and be able to give you an actual pre-qualification. Typically, those pre-approvals will last up to 120 days, so 4 months. And once you have that number, once we've underwritten your file and we have all the documentation, you're then good. You know what you're looking at buying. We know how much you have down, what your employment situation is, and what your credit looks like, and you're good to go start the process.
How long does that take? Is it pretty quick?
Yeah, the application we've streamlined, so it's takes 5 minutes, and then just as long as it's collecting your documentation, and we can get you back something within the same day. So a very simple process.
Cool. Well, that's great information. And we'll put the contact information on how to get a hold of Zach and his team in the write-up on this piece when we post it. So that's great. Thanks, Zach. So question number 2 we get is there a better time of the year to buy a house? Is it spring, fall, that kind of stuff? And the answer to that, I think, is a little bit more complex than time of year. Wouldn't you say, Tony?
Oh yeah, 100%. So, there's so many different variables such as supply, demand, other market factors, interest rates, all sorts of pre-qualifying rules, regulations, especially nowadays. There's been a lot of changes.
Yeah.
That being said, it's interesting because a lot of people, they wait till spring to buy. That is, sometimes it could be okay. However, you've got a lot of extra competition. A lot of people are out looking at the exact same things that you are. Winter seems to be a pretty good time. It seems to slow down a little bit compared to the rest of the year. However, even the neighborhoods, some are far hotter than others. So overall, there really isn't a bad time to buy, especially in this area. Yeah. There's such a high demand.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the buyer and their needs too, right? Like if they're
very much so.
If they need to buy now, and there's different reasons behind that.
There's so many different reasons to move and to sell that there's forever going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, good. And question number 3 we get a lot is, what are my closing costs? So I bought a house and I got some other expenses, obviously, right, Joseph? What would those be?
Yeah, so your closing costs in addition to your down payment are going to be your property transfer tax, which is 1% of the first $200,000 and 2% of the balance up to $2 million.
Okay.
Then you have your lawyer notary fees, which are going to be in the range of $1,000. You also have an optional inspection you can get done, which depending on the size of house can be anywhere from $400 to $600.
Right.
There. So, and then any other expense you have disbursements of if the previous owner paid the year's property taxes, then you have to reimburse them for that. But
right. And the lawyer does all that stuff.
Exactly.
The other interesting, I think Zach can talk about this too, but the property purchase or property transfer tax can actually go on your mortgage.
Yeah, that's a key item that sometimes gets lost. Is property transfer tax is one of the big ticket item that always has to be paid in advance. That comes on the statement of adjustments at the lawyers, as Joseph mentioned.
Right. And question number 4 we get is, I'm buying a home. Does it cost money to use us to buy that home? Don't?
No.
Perfect. That's it.
Wait. Let me elaborate just a little bit.
Yeah.
So typically speaking, the benefit to the buyers is that you get my expertise and knowledge, and the sellers, through their commission, I am compensated. So
Right. So the seller puts up an amount of money, they
Yep.
split it between the
listing
listing
agent.
agent and the buying agent
Precisely.
with the buyer, and that's how we get compensated when we sell you a property. So essentially, you're not outlaying any money to use our services
Correct.
on the buying side of things.
yes.
Right, gotcha, perfect. Question number 5 we get is, if you own a home currently, should you sell it first or should you buy it first? And this is a bit of a complex one. I think we'd all agree. It really depends on the market that you're in, because I mean, if you're in a fast market and things are selling really fast and you haven't sold your home, the person that's home you're trying to buy, they're probably not going to want to look at the subject to sale because they got lots of other people writing them offers that have sold, right? So if the market's slow though, and say that seller's been sitting there for a month or two and no offers, and you come along and you still have to sell your house as a subject to sale offer, they're likely going to look at it because they don't have, you know, anything else to lose. But I think the key thing in this whole, you know, discussion is, if you sell your property first, regardless of the market, and you go to buy another home, you're in a better negotiating position because you got cash in hand. You have a contract saying that you sold your property, and you can go in there and fire an offer, and they're going to look at that way more seriously than if you still have a home to sell. So complicated question, but again, that's what we talk about, you know, when we meet with our buyers, right? So that's a wrap on our top 5 question video for buying that we get. If you do want more information, we do have a handy buyer's guide. We'll put a link to our PDF version you can download here. Very useful information, got lots of the questions we've answered plus a lot more detail. So we'll put that on there for you guys to download. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of our team here or Zach, the Silverman Mortgage Group, and we'd be happy to get you guys on your way to buying your new home. So bye for now. Have a great day, guys.
And other market variables such as interest rates, all sorts of qualificating.
So question number 2 we get is there a better time of the year to buy a house? Is it, you know, spring, fall?
5% up to 750. 750.
I don't